Thank you, Murray.
Hi, Murray. Are you still there? Oh no, he probably walked away.
It's okay. Yeah, he's here. He just put it on mute. But he made me the co-host. So I clicked more and I have chat, ask to start video, allowed to record, rename, put in waiting room, remove, or report.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so weird. Huh. It doesn't say assign to type CC?
No, I wonder if he has to do it as like legit the host.
Mm-hmm.
What would I do?
Click my name, click more,
Mm-hmm.
and then it should say assign to type CC.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Got it. And then I'll do the rest on my end, and I'll let you know when they're live.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to know, Murray, that a co-host can't assign a captioner.
Well, what do you know?
Or Murray's just limiting my power.
Yes,
But,
that's
yeah.
what he's doing.
I'm a man. I have to make sure I have the power.
Keep telling yourself that.
I know, right?
I had a friend stop by and look at our massive project that's underway next door. She's like, how are you like keeping your husband sane? I'm like, keeping him busy? I don't know. He started busting up the tile yesterday.
That's brutal.
It's Saltillo tile.
Yep, I've done that before.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Mm-hmm.
I did the carpet by myself. I was very proud.
Yeah, you did a great job.
I mean, it pretty much just takes like brute strength and some scissors or cutter, whatever things I use.
Yeah.
After the 30 years that carpet was down, it pretty much just disintegrated as soon as I touched it anyway.
Oh man, I bet it was nasty.
It was horrible.
Oh, hi, Angela. So this is, Angela, this is a virtual background. Oh, you're talking about this picture right now. Oh, okay. So if you log in and you have an account, you can log into the Zoom account on zoom.us in the web.
Oh.
And you can upload your picture or your avatar.
I didn't realize I didn't have the chat here.
It was a direct message, so.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait. Poor Angela is hearing all of our details.
She's been around long enough that she knows.
Yes. I did think of Angela the other day when this was a couple weeks ago, but I went to Tempe and I was like, I don't know where the light switches are. These are the times we miss Angela Ambrosia being here first thing in the morning, turning on all the lights. Hi, Jolie.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, the captions should be live now. It just says test, test, test. If you click on the live transcript box, can anybody see them?
I'm looking. Murray, I think you have to
Yeah,
do
what
it.
do I do? Show subtitle?
Yeah, you can do show subtitle. Well, all of you can access the captions now. You can just click that live transcript box and it comes up. I'll just write testing so you can see.
I think I can't see them though because I'm sharing my screen.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
You see it? Okay.
Testing, testing, testing.
Yep, that's me.
I see it on my screen now.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you guys hear like a little clicking sound?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it's
Yep, it's gone now.
always me. I don't know what it is.
It's your heart.
I do know what it is. Just a second.
Why do you have those chocolate chip cookies in the background?
Ah ha ha. Well,
That is not fair.
it's all about accessibility.
Well, I don't have access to them.
They so Lainey Feingold, who is in the accessibility industry, I guess. She's well known. She's a lawyer, a blind lawyer, and she has worked with the airline industry and a lot of major companies, banks, stuff like that, after they got sued. And anyway, she came up with this brilliant idea of how you can make a chocolate chip cookie, and you can go, like, for example, you can take the cookie dough, you can bake it, and then add the chocolate chips. And it's still a chocolate chip cookie. And it probably will taste really good, but it's not as good as actually putting the chocolate chips in while you make the dough.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that if you integrate the accessibility part into your design and your development processes, rather than trying to figure out how to work it in later, it just turns out to be a better product.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Is it still there?
A
No.
little.
Oh, it comes and goes.
Well, I have like really good earphones, so
Okay, so it's the tortoise in the room next to me banging on the glass because he's trying to get the food for the
no,
other tortoise.
I think what this is it sounds like an electrical short. So it could be like a microphone or a speaker that is just clicking.
Yeah, because it's continuous.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, let me try something else.
Ding dong.
They can't protect you anymore. You don't know nothing. To ask you something. Is that funny too? Where were you when they shot your cousin in Seattle? I'm done talking. My lawyer's on the way. I hope he's a good one.
How about now?
Perfect.
Yep, I don't hear it.
Hey, there's
Okay.
Pixie. Hi, Pixie. And Pixie's friend.
Say hi, Brie.
Do you see the cookies above my head?
Yes.
It's a cookie hat.
Excuse me.
I talked to State's attorney's office. The evidence is weak. There's no fingerprints on the gun. The defense is
Case is strong. Strong. If there's nothing else,
who made it after I helped Lewinsky.
Don't bring it out like this.
I told you. I told you there would be a time when I asked you to solve cases in a hurry or not. In a hurry, that's one of those.
That's great, Jason.
I know it was you who tipped off Crimson.
Excuse me?
His girlfriend saw you.
Someone's
talking to him.
TV's in the background and it's not on mute.
Trying to kill my man at once.
Generations too.
It was Angela.
Oh, okay. Jason, we got to start him early, right?
Front end thinking.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're gonna wait and get started right at 1 o'clock.
Or
We
your
do-
money back.
We do have live captions available, so if you would like those on your screen, you can go ahead and click the live caption button. Every time I hear that, I feel like I'm on an airplane and someone's pushing the.
Oh, you know, we should turn that off. I can do that. Play sound.
Or waiting for some announcement.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been there, but if when you're in a hospital, a lot of
Yes.
times they will play like a little lullaby every time a baby's born. It's like, man, I wish we had that at Rio when they like the student passes a course or something.
I mean, that sounds really fun.
It reminds me of an old commercial. Ding dong, Avon calling.
Wow. I remember those.
Awesome. It is 1 o'clock. Looks like lots of people are still joining. We're waiting on 2 special guests, so let's just give 1 more minute.
Christina, while we're waiting, if I may ask, what is your role and your position?
Yeah, I'm Christina Bolliard. I'm the manager of disability services at Rio.
Okay.
Sorry, I was looking for, there it is. When I'm sharing my screen, I can't see everything. Let's see.
I know the feeling, Christina.
Oh. Oh my goodness, trying to find where everything is not always easy.
The other thing you'll see, Christina, is you can't see the chat when you're sharing screen. You can see that it's happening, but you can't actually see what's being said in it, right? It's
So
like, hope
there's
it's good things.
right, exactly. Well, we will go ahead and get started. Hello, and thank you all for joining us. And welcome to Rio Salado College's first ever Global Accessibility Awareness Day event. We are so excited to have all of you here to engage with us in a discussion about how important access is for everyone. And we'd like to start with a word from our college president. So Kate, if you could take it away.
Thank you so much, Christina. And good afternoon and welcome everybody to Rio Salado College's inaugural Global Accessibility and Awareness Day celebration and our educational dialogue as we all have the chance to come together for our first recognition. So very excited for this. Today, Thursday, May 20th, recognizes or marks the 10th annual Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's pronounced GAD, right? Is as the acronym. Thank you. And this day celebrates the inherent value of creating multiple ways of access to learning, which coincides with a hallmark of who Rio Salado College is and who we've always been. The purpose of GAD is to raise awareness, inspire opportunities to think about what true accessibility means, and to learn more about digital inclusion. So please join me in thanking the planning team. Feel free to turn your mics on, use emojis in the chat. But I'd really, please join me in a sincere thank you to Mira Radovich, Sonia Ruiz Lopez, Mary Kilmer, Julie Day, Murray Inman, Julie Kober, and of course, Christina Bolyard. So give it up for them. Woo! Thank you all so much. It always takes a lot of work to put an event together. Yes, I love that, rock stars. So as we continue on the journey of garnering awareness and educating one another and implementing new practices and procedures that help to support all of our learners, colleagues, and community members, I am proud that we as an institution can come together and continue to learn about the history of disability support services and civil rights. Today, we have the opportunity to support and affirm our stance of equity and true access for all people. And while this is Rio Salado College's first GAD celebration, we look forward to bringing more events like this to our community and recognizing the strengths and talents of all that continue to help us shape who we are and help us live up to our core values of equity and inclusiveness. So with that, thank you again all for joining us, and I hand it back to you, Christina.
Thank you so much, President Smith. On behalf of the team that has been working on this project, your support of this event and others like it is greatly appreciated. We have a very, very full event planned for today, so let's go ahead and get started. Global Accessibility Awareness Day is a space for us that creates an intentional conversation about how over 1 billion people around the world access the world. So we're going to take a minute and discuss what public accommodations are. So the term public accommodation refers to the basic non-discrimination requirements that provide access to individuals and make sure that we're not denying access, creating separate access, or creating unequal treatment for people with disabilities. There are architectural standards. When we construct new buildings or remodel old buildings, there are compliance things that we have to follow in order to make sure that we are incorporating these access things. These are regulations that require our spaces, for example, to be wheelchair accessible. We have elevators, we have door openers. Those are just a couple of examples of some of the architectural requirements. Sometimes this even means that we're removing barriers from existing buildings. So I want to share a couple of recent cases with you where individuals with disabilities have encountered some barriers. So thanks to Murray Inman, some of you were enticed here with pizza. So let's talk about Domino's. This is our virtual pizza. Mr. Robles was a blind man who was unable to order pizza via Domino's website or their mobile app in 2016 due to the website accessibility. So I often reflect on this situation and think if it was last year, I don't know how I would have gotten food if I couldn't order it on an app or on a website or have it delivered or carside. So he was unable to order. So he sues Domino's, and the court agrees that the website needs to be accessible. If we're not making the website accessible, then Mr. Robles can't order pizza from the website and has to do it differently. So Domino's appealed, he won that, and the court said it needs to be accessible. And Domino's appealed to the US Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court flat out denied to even hear the case, upholding the civil rights standard that all people should have access to all services and supports in whatever modality that would look like. So Domino's was required to make their website accessible. So just prior to that, in 2015, Mr. Gill, who was also a blind man and had cerebral palsy, shopped at the store Winn-Dixie. Winn-Dixie is a regional grocery store. And in 2015, Winn-Dixie launched a website and included an app where you could order your prescriptions. Mr. Gill was really excited about this because prior to the launch of the website, he would have to go into the store and request assistance with refilling his prescriptions, thus sharing his medical information with people that he doesn't know who's around, who's listening. Additionally, when he would go to the store and want to shop with coupons, he would have to cut out those coupons himself have someone cut them out and have someone help him access and find those items in the store. So this was very enticing to him to have a website. He found that 90% of the store's website was inaccessible. So after 2 years of not being able to fill his prescriptions through Winn-Dixie and not being able to use their website, Mr. Gill filed a lawsuit against Winn-Dixie. That was filed in 2017. The district court agreed that he should have access to the website to order his medications and to shop. So Winn-Dixie appealed that decision to the 11th Circuit Court. And just recently, in April of 2021, the court sided with Winn-Dixie and said they do not need to make their website accessible. Mr. Gill has been very, very public in saying that he will shop other places. But let's tie it all back to Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Let's look at this issue on a bigger scale. What if over 1 billion people couldn't use Apple products because they were not accessible? What kind of impact would that have on Apple? To help us untangle this topic a little bit more, I'm going to pass it off to Murray.
Thank you, Christina. So, this is a fascinating couple cases here. And, the question I have is, why is this so hard to figure out? Why are there so many lawsuits? And part of the challenge is that the Title III uses the term facility when it comes to places places of public accommodation. And to kind of understand the thing a little bit more, so Title III, they began writing it in the early 1990s, and it became official mid-1991. So think back, where were you in 1991? Some of you may not even been around in 1991, but so now you're thinking of where you were. Think about what was the internet back then, right? So if you, would you go to the next slide, Christina? So the very first web server went live on, it was Tim Berners-Lee he made his personal computer a web server, and it went online onto the network in 1990. And so right about the time that the web came into existence was the same time that Title III was written and came into existence. And it was the web, and on the screen there is a picture of the very first web page, and it's all text-based, and the way you hyperlink or click on a link, well, actually you didn't click, you actually typed in the number that was right next to that bit of text, and it would take you to where that's going. And so back then they never imagined that the web would become this thing where we carry around a computer in our pockets and we can order pizza, we can order groceries, we can refill our prescriptions. And so the term facility is kind of the sticking point, because it is a what is a facility? And so would you go to the next? Thank you. Okay, so why are we talking about this as a college? Why are we talking about it as a community or a society? Because we need to think about these things. They're not simple concepts, or how rules are made apply to lots of different things. And so the laws that we have are basically the lowest level minimum for those that don't think big enough to include everyone. But in order to keep learning, to keep growing, evolving, we need to do better at developing empathy. And to do that, we need to take moments to actually listen and hear people and ponder what they say. We need to be mindful of what feelings we have and why we're having those feelings. So at Rio, our mission is we redefine the educational experience by anticipating the needs of our students and future workforce. We support learners where they are and provide high quality, flexible, and accessible education to empower individual goal attainment, foster partnerships, and strengthen communities. And this is such an important thing to us as a culture that there was a strategic goal that was written directly addressing this. There's 3 strategic goals that the college has decided are important enough that we need to focus a lot of attention, resources, and energy towards. The third one is foster a culture of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And that's for everybody, right? So no matter if you're lucky enough to work for Rio or not, you control your choices. You control how you react to things. And when we set out, our goal for this, or objective for this 2021 Global Accessibility Awareness Day, is to give you a chance to kind of step away from your typical crazy, chaotic day and ask yourself, what can you do to make a difference and create a more inclusive space around you? And so with that in mind, Julie Colber is here. She's the Rio Faculty Chair for Communication, and she's going to guide us into the next steps of our process here.
Thank you, Murray. Christina had asked me to attend the event and present some formal rules of debate and argumentation for the upcoming conversation. Now, I can give you the typical norms of debate. First person makes an affirmative argument, next person makes an opposing argument. There's a back and forth between the two, and then there's an opportunity to ask questions. Now, all that being said, we can have conversation like that, but I would like to frame the conversation around the idea of mindful discourse and friendly debate. Murray just said it just a few minutes ago. We need to be mindful of our feelings as well as the feelings of others. There's a huge difference between the two. A thoughtful response can quell a heated debate and conversation, while a knee-jerk reaction ups the emotional ante. So one is mindful and the other isn't. Excuse me. Mindfulness is about focusing on the present, being aware of your thoughts and your feelings and the feelings of others without judgment. So I'll set out a few pointers as we get into the conversation. So first, let's begin with ourselves. Ask yourself how you relate to the topic at hand. If you feel an opposition, ask yourself what you're feeling. Is it unease, frustration, fear, pain? Whatever it is, note it, allow yourself to be in it, pause, breathe, return to your center, and become clear about your intentions and what you're communicating to others. The aim here is to cultivate a kind and accepting free space, a safe space to share ideas. And anyone's disposition, positive or negative, can change the tone of the conversation in just an instant. That's why we don't have knee-jerk reactions. In fact, many arguments can be avoided altogether when you realize that you're not really talking about the same issue to begin with. And oftentimes, it's not something worth arguing about. And we see that so often. In fact, as we're getting into this conversation, anything that you saw in any presidential debate, completely forget about it, because that has no useful information here in how we want to gauge our conversations. Next, if you exchange diverging or opposite views, do so without coming across angry or defensive. We all need to remain respectful of the other people in the group, even if you disagree with his or her position. Keeping an open mind may help you to find a peaceful resolution in any argument or debate. Lastly, let's all be thankful for the experience. Even when a conversation can be uncomfortable, it can help us grow and learn more about ourselves and the people we care about in our community. And just because we disagree with someone, it doesn't have to be a heated exchange. This isn't a debate. This isn't an argument. Staying mindful during a conversation allows us to choose the discourse we wish and debate in ways that don't escalate any situation. And my biggest point that I wanted to make here is the goal is to listen to understand, not listen to respond. So with all that being said, Murray, I think you can take us into our breakout rooms and everybody have some good, meaningful and mindful conversation with our peers.
Very good.
So we have some questions up on the screen, and each breakout room will have a moderator, and we're asking you to engage for about 15 minutes and just talk about this topic of accessibility for all, and then relate these questions to the two cases that we discussed, Domino's who is accessible, and Winn-Dixie who is no longer going to be making efforts towards accessibility. And Murray, hit the magic button.
Magic button. All right, let's see if this works like I think it's going to work. Okay, I was hoping everybody would just kind of flush into magically assigned rooms. So, all right. Let's do this.
We should have made Janelle the...
I know, she's so good at this.
Just have practice. If you need any help, let me know. I think you can just hit breakouts, auto assign, and it'll kind of give you some logic on how big your groups will be based on the number of participants.
I see. Okay. All right, so now let's try this.
And Janelle, if they have moderators, they can specifically assign a person to a room too, correct?
Yeah, the moderators have been assigned.
Yep, the host can do that.
Okay. Boy, this is gonna take a while.
I auto assign everyone and then I put my moderators where I want them. It goes a lot faster.
Oh, that's what I should do.
We're all learning every day. I'm getting pretty good at Zoom. And I'm really excited to share that I finally got Rev connected to my Zoom. So I have auto transcription for our all employee meeting. Finally.
Uh-oh, I think I clicked on the wrong thing. I should have practiced this. So how do we, so if I clicked on close rooms, now it's waiting to time out.
Murray, can you make Janelle a host and then she can
Huh?
help send us all?
Yeah,
I
let's
don't
try
know
that.
if you moderate or who's supposed to moderate what room, but you could tell me.
It doesn't matter, just so long as one of the moderators has a room.
Like the people with the background that have dad on them?
I'll
Say
send
what?
you the moderators.
Can you just chat her the list of moderators?
Yep.
Here we go.
Don't stress out. It's all good.
Oh,
It happens to all of us, Murray.
oh, I know, right?
Happens to all of us.
Okay.
I appreciate that, the empathy when it happens to the rest of us.
All right, so Gina.
Got it.
But for the record, this is the only time it's ever happened to Murray. Ever.
That's true. I've never done it before.
That's great.
All right.
Now we all know why I gave Murray that job.
Yeah.
All right.
Now we all know why Janelle handles the all employee meetings. We don't want Kate near that.
Oh, I keep getting that job though. I'm like, I'm like tech support on call. My kids were coming down when they were doing homeschool too and asking for tech support. It was weird. It was a weird time.
All right. So I think I got all the moderators assigned. And then,
Thank you, Michael Medlock, for your little plug there. Yes, I'm happy to accommodate Zoom usage. Although that would be an employee accommodation, so I would have to send Murray to HR.
That's true, yeah.
what's starting to happen? How do you do a auto assign? I don't see that option. All right.
You need help assigning?
Yeah, if you can help.
Yeah. We'll do a little debrief after. Usually it's an option before this screen.
Oh, thank you. Yay, I think we did it. Oh, Medlock, why aren't you in the one? Michael.
Am I in a room?
You're you're in the main room.
Okay.
Why don't you show up under unassigned? Oh, it says not joined. Hold on, let me move you. I think you have to say yes. So
Yeah.
there you go. All right.
And I just stay here, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. Because I know my captions will go to the main room if I caption the breakout room. So.
Yes. All right, I think we survived that one. I think I accidentally assigned Christina. Oh well. It's fun to watch it all fill back in.
It was brutal. Like I was the note taker in our group, and Christina's like mid-sentence, and I'm not watching the screen at all, and she just disappeared.
Well, it warned us, it told us it's going to shut down in 20
I know,
seconds.
but I was busy writing.
Awesome. So we wanted to take an opportunity and have everyone kind of share out, like, what was your aha moment? What was something your team talked about? What was something your team came up with as a way that we can make our space at Rio more inclusive of people who access our space differently than we do? And Gina Marie has her hand up, so we're going to have her go first.
Woo. One of the things that came forward at the very end, and same thing, you know, we're listening to somebody talking with, whoop, everybody disappeared. But really about that thinking at the front end of in the design plan of saying, this is how we envision it, and not, and just because it's difficult or doesn't work this first time, not meaning that, okay, we're going to give up now, but saying, okay, so how do we come at it in a different manner?
Right.
Awesome. Thank you. Janelle?
Had an awesome discussion, but some of the very tangible takeaways I was just impressed with. I learned that there's actually a hyper legible font that you can install, and it can help for when, you know, if you're making a PowerPoint for any kind of large meeting, maybe some additional checkpoints that you can do that are simple things to make sure it's more accessible in this format. So it's called Atkinson's Hyper Legible Font, and I learned that today. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandy.
So our group, the main takeaway we had was just basically not is that there's such a lack of empathy, and it's really short-sighted to exclude certain populations, because when you improve the quality or the accessibility and you're being inclusive of others, you're automatically making the experience better for all. And it just, and why would somebody want to waste their money to exclude somebody instead of include them and have this customer base? And it's just not the customer base, it expands out to their advocates. Their advocates are seeing this, people are watching, they're showing if somebody's showing empathy and inclusiveness. And if somebody just shuns away all that, why, why? We were just baffled. Why would anybody want to do that? Rio, we're trying very hard to make sure that the stuff we put out, the content we put out, whether it be the online learning courses or the information we put on the website and social media, we want to make sure that, we has all the accessibility that's there, and it's ADA compliant. So that's what our main takeaway was from.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandy. Floyd?
Sure. Our group, we got pretty vulnerable pretty quickly, actually, and had a lot of really great, robust conversation. But I think the two really main takeaways that we got from our group was, number one, just kind of leading from a space of mindfulness and empathy. We talked about just the outcome might be the same, but the reason and the intention that we do something could be vastly different. And so, we talked about publishing courses and publishing work or what have you, and leaning into requirements and compliance, but really making sure that we're mindful and coming from the space of this is who we are and not necessarily what we do. So that was kind of one takeaway. And then the second takeaway was really from a process standpoint, really making sure that as we work with Carol, Dr. Carol Schmidt, so often to look at compliance processes, really making sure that we're leaning into our personnel and our resources for accessibility. So as we're building that into our project life cycles. So those were our two main takeaways in our group.
Awesome. Thank you. President Smith, I don't think you have to raise your hand.
I will always raise my hand. It's like clearly hardwired in. So our group, and please, Anita and Liz, Michelle, Christina, jump in. I would say a couple takeaways. Gina Marie, you actually touched on one of them in the chat box about recognizing universal design because it's the right thing to do, right? And it benefits all, not doing something because it's the law, but thinking about accessibility at the beginning of design, at the beginning of every process, policy, practice, and tools that we build and design. How do we incorporate accessibility thinking from the beginning, inclusive thinking from the beginning for all populations, not just student, for all populations. So we definitely talked about that. We also talked about how any work that we do in this space is better for us all. And the example given just about, having accessible doors, right? And how many people actually use that button simply out of convenience because their arms are full, or somebody said they don't want to touch the door handle for germs. So, it becomes a benefit to everybody. And I will say, we used to say that when I was teaching, right? Like whenever you make any accommodation in your pedagogy for any student, it benefits all students. And it's that same concept. When we design with accessibility in mind, it truly benefits all. And also just to kind of incorporate in our thinking, one example was brought up, if we put a syllabus in a course and it's not accessible, what message are we sending to that student about welcome to my class? Hey, I'm so happy you're here. Sorry, you can't access the syllabus, right? To know anything about the class. So, and of course it's never on purpose, but how do we start, really being much more mindful about our design principles? We had some other talk, but I think that covers some of the heart of it.
Awesome.
How'd I do, team?
Great job. Anybody else? Any other groups that we didn't cover yet? Oh, Kevin, yes.
I think one of our takeaways that we actually came to at the end, which I think is actually really great, is perspective. A lot of times, if it doesn't affect us, you don't really think about it, or you're not aware of what's going on around you because it doesn't affect you personally. And that's just human nature. But we talked a lot about like the combination of, it's also, there's different learning disabilities and different learning needs that people might need more accessibility to, and how do we combine those and make sure that we have the proper resources for maybe a dyslexic student, or maybe someone's more visual than they are textbook, or things like that. And the perspective thing really stood out to me too, because we talked about like the personas. If you have someone that in your life that is blind, and maybe they struggle with having accessibility, that person's always going to come to mind first when you go somewhere, or when you go to to one of our equity action forums. Those are the first things you're going to think of. So we had talked about like, Murray reaches out sometimes and gives tips like, hey, this was great, but in order to make this successful, I just want to give you a few tips. So now when we do events or things, or we want feedback, we'll think of Christina or Murray. We should go to them and ask them, is this accessible? So it's just having those personas and that perspective, and kind of being outside of yourself for a moment to see that there are struggles that may not be on the surface that you can see, but other people are going through some things, and they also have a need for resources.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. That's exactly what we were looking for, and what the message we were really focusing on. I saw Mary Kilmer's hand.
Yeah, a lot of what we talked about was just awareness, or a lack of awareness, and how we all need to become more aware of the issues that are out there. Because if we don't have a disability ourselves, or someone in our family who has a disability, then it's really hard to know what somebody else needs. And so we were talking about education and bringing about awareness so that people know more about that. We also talked about being willing to learn and having empathy. An example was given of someone who took the time out of their day to sit with someone who was visually impaired and walk them through some things, and help them where maybe some of the other people on their team weren't willing to do that. And so using that as a teaching moment, and bringing about that awareness and that teaching of how to reach out to somebody and step outside of your comfort zone maybe, and sit down with someone and help them with what they need. I think that's a really, really important thing that, could apply to all of us, and that would help many, many people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary. Jolie?
Yeah, so we had a really good conversation. Some of our main points that we talked about too were just like the mindsets of the corporation, that there's some that have more open mind to change and to make things more accessible, where obviously with the Winn-Dixie situation, they were not. And then just making things more accessible for everybody. And then some things that are happening at Rio are just making classes more accessible for each student, in that area. And then also some other things at Rio that we had in my group, we had some other employees that communicate with students over Zoom. And if they had Zoom Pro, then they would have the captionings to where when those students need more visual to keep track of the conversation, they would be able to read and go through that conversation more smoothly without, and just making that experience communicating with us at Rio more welcoming and more accessible.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that out, Jolie. And that did come up in another conversation as well. And that that was kind of around which platform to use. And so that's a really good conversation when we're making decisions on what platforms to use, really engaging the experts. As a district, WebEx has an option for artificial intelligence and captioning and recording and transcription that Zoom does not. So that might be something that that we look at and have a further discussion about. So thank you. Sarah Singleton?
My group has already reported out.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. I thought I saw your hand. Is there anybody else that I didn't catch that had comments to add?
I had one more comment that I'd like to add. Excuse me, this is Maris from Sunsounds. One of the things that I have observed is that sometimes people take things for granted, that everyone is fine, everything is, hunky-dory, and we should not do that. And that's why accessibility and mindfulness is really, really important at all times. Disabilities are not sometimes always visible. You don't know what that disability is. If it's somebody in a wheelchair, of course, it's a kind of a no-brainer. But if there's other disabilities that are almost invisible to you, don't take for granted that this person may just be, a little slow or something, something might be wrong with them, or you don't even have any indication. So mindfulness is really, really important. And I know people are very busy. They got a lot of things on their mind. They're multitasking, but don't forget about mindfulness about the other person.
I really, really appreciate that comment. Thank you. I've seen really frequently throughout the last year and a half, kind of that image of a pie chart, and it has like this little teeny tiny sliver, and it says what we know about what someone's going through, and then it shows the rest of the pie chart. And I think that there's a comment in the chat about the pandemic really forcing us and forcing a lot of people to recognize accessibility issues. And I think that is so true. I think it kind of, I am not a golfer, but a golf reference. We all have a handicap now because I don't know how to assign people. I don't know how to make a co-host. Those aren't things I do every day. But making things accessible, looking at things with an accessible lens is. And that's something that's at the forefront of everything that I do. So I think that it's just a mental shift. So I really, really appreciate the dialogue that everybody has had and the comfort that everybody's had sharing these things. We're really moving forward with a lot of these initiatives thanks to the support of the DEIB task force and the college president and the president's office. We want to help shift the culture and the focus and really focus on making Rio an inclusive space for everyone. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to Floyd for our final words. Dr. Harden.
Hello and good afternoon. Those of you that know me and know me well know that I always refer to my Rio family as our culture creators and our culture keepers. And I think that, as we are new to this work and evolving in this work, I just want to say thank you to my culture creators and our culture keepers here. This is what we are trying to do, as President Smith gave us the charge about a year and a half ago, to really be mindful in what does it mean to be an institution that leads with social mobility and mobility in all spaces at the forefront of everything that we do. This is part of that work. And so I want to say thank you all for participating in this. Thank you all for coming together and learning. I'd like to close, if I may, with two quotes, both from Helen Keller. First quote is, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of overcoming it. And alone, we can do so little, but together we can do so much." And so as I think about the dialogue today, about creating spaces of vulnerability, engendering trust, those two quotes really embody for me what I think of the theme as today as triumph of the human spirit. And we've been able to do that today together. And so I want to continue to empower and encourage folks to tell their stories, because it is through stories that we get to learn about each other, to understand where our blind spots are, and how as an institution, how as a family, how as culture keepers and culture creators, we can continue to do this work. So again, I want to thank the planning committee for today's dialogue. I want to thank President Smith for her support of everything that we've been able to do in shifting our mindset as an institution. And lastly, I just would like to plug a quick event as we are looking to stand in our commitment to expanding this conversation and to continue to raise awareness throughout our college community. We'll be working with the DRS office to really begin celebrating and commemorating our first celebration of the 31 years of ADA. So look forward to sharing everyone more details, but we'll look to do that kickoff in July. So with that, I'll throw it back over to Christina, but again, just want to say thank you all for attending today.
Thank you guys so very much. Murray and I had a conversation early on in this group, in the planning process of, well, what do we do if nobody shows up? How do we know how many breakout rooms to have? So it was really awesome for us to figure out how many more breakout rooms we needed to add, so we had enough room for everybody. So we are your—
And thank you to all the moderators.
Yes, thank you, moderators. I handle all of the accommodations for student access, as well as our visitors that are coming to campus, and Murray handles all of our technology and media and faculty, and then HR handles all of our employees that need assistance. So we can't help you guys without you coming to us. So please come to us with anything. We're happy to help. We're happy to support you and happy to keep moving this initiative forward. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
I feel
Thanks,
like
Floyd.
once we go back to in person, I just want to go bye. Like every time I leave a room.
Be like, bye, see you later.
Jazz hands every time I leave.
Wonderful, Christina and team. Thank you all so much. I think
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it went amazing. So thanks, y'all.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marissa, for captioning for us.
Thank you. You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Are we good?
Oh, nice.
I think so. It went well. I'm happy about it.
Me too. Whew.
It's great.
I scribbled on my notepad and I thought, I hope I say this all right.
I know that feeling.
Then I'm like going, wait, is that what I really meant to? No, that can't be right. Sorry, I kind of was going to the last. Anyways, all right.
All right.
See
I
you
think I
guys
saved it all.
later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.